my experience as well, that basically the most misogynistic people that I've known were perfectly happy with like fine claiming even that they were like toxically masculine, because they were much more concerned with the masculine part than the toxic part.
Right. They're like, I'm happy I'm toxically masculine because
also,
this is like the best way I could be. You know?
But think about this too. Like, have y'all seen how often there's this trope about men you see on like fucking Tinder and dating sites who call themselves feminists, who end up turning into like the most fucking misogynist fuckboy pieces of shit?
What you doing out here with a fuckboy? What you doing out here with a fuckboy?
Like, it fundamentally obscures like the actual, again, like concrete material behaviors and things that are happening. It's like, I think it like falls prey to this way that we just fucking plaster these concepts all over the place
like
with no idea how they work.
That has like shifted their perspective from like just saying things that are like meant to directly manipulate women into thinking that they have like, that they're confident or that they're like good looking or whatever, right? Has now like adopted the like language of toxic masculinity to talk to women and pick them up and do the exact same fucking thing.
Yeah, it's like I can quote Angela Davis at you, but I'm still gonna fucking objectify you and think you're less than a human being and just something for my gratification, you know? And it's like, but if I frame it as like, I'm fucking gonna read you a Bell Hooks quote before I objectify you, it's like, yeah, then it's okay. Anyway.
Obviously we're not we're not fans of the concept of toxic masculinity.
Well, I mean,
on the Red Library podcast.
Well, I mean, I wonder though if like the idea of like misogyny is still like a much more useful way to talk about whatever it is, that set of things that we're trying to describe.
Yeah, I would think so.
Let's do number 4. Disagreement is treason. The critical spirit makes distinctions, and to distinguish is a sign of modernism. In modern culture, the scientific community praises disagreement as a way to improve knowledge. Do you see this one playing out in the dojo at all?
I mean, it's implicit, right? Like when the dude gets his arm absolutely fucking annihilated by the sensei, like everybody's just like, ooh, you know, they're just like, oh shit, I'm not gonna like cringe because I'm invited to this elite class and this is what is expected of me. Same way like when I was a kid and my sensei like slapped my fucking fellow student, I didn't say anything. I'm not, you know, because like you conform, you know, you're supposed to conform, and it's not even that it's explicitly stated that you have to conform, but it's the social pressure of like, you know, there's like all these experiments that were done on like the social pressure to conform, right? Like if you're alone in a room and you see like smoke coming from under the door or whatever, like you're likely to report that there's some smoke coming in. But if you're in a room with like 3 people and the other 2 are Confederates and like they don't do anything and they just like don't react to it, then you'll fucking sit there too and you'll just like inhale smoke till you fucking die. Like, you know, like
if they're Confederates, like if they're
Confederates, like
if they're
it's
fighting for the CSA.
I just Confederates are like people who are in on the experiment.
With the stars and bars.
Yeah, stars and bars.
Christ.
They're like Patriot fronts. Fucking like.
You're sitting in a room with 2 Proud Boys.
No, yeah, I probably wouldn't report it, so we could all just die.
Yeah, fuck yeah, man.
Like, I'll take out 2 for 1.
Yeah. 2 of you motherfuckers for 1 of me. It's dying for the cause right there. Well, we got fucking a shit ton of these points.
All right, yeah, let's do some more.
I think we're coming on time, man. So let's maybe blow through some of these.
All right, so fear of difference. The first appeal of a fascist or prematurely fascist movement is an appeal against the intruders. Thus, fascism is racist by definition. What do y'all think about that one?
I didn't see much of a racial component being talked about in this movie. There were definitely like once again, it's implied, right? Like he talks about like you need to adopt like a masculine persona. You need to listen to metal. Like people who listen to contemporary pop are weak. You know, like the idea that guns are weak and weakness is just like the ultimate evil. Like, you know, but really, I don't think there was too much of like an outsiders are not good. Yeah. Not explicitly, but there were definitely categories of people and descriptors and traits of people that were categorically labeled as like unacceptable.
Yeah, so maybe that's sort of more implicit, but isn't like fully developed within the film.
Yeah.
Well, this one I think is pretty clear. Appeal to social frustration. One of the most typical features of the historical fascism was the appeal to a frustrated middle class. Ding, 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 motherfuckers.
Yeah.
He's a middle income accountant at just some unnamed office place. A frustrated middle class, a class suffering from an economic crisis or feelings of political humiliation and frightened by the pressure of lower social groups. I mean, Casey's obviously intensely socially frustrated.
No, yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
What's interesting is it's not necessarily described as something related to fear of a lower social group or like the sort of like class-based, like middle-class anxiety.
Well, yeah, because it's easier to sell like a desire to be more masculine as like an appropriate desire than for you to like wish that you had a higher income or like that you were in a better or more liquid state of like whatever. Like I have
Like the T-1000?
yeah, fuck yeah, man. It's not an appropriate desire to want to be like the T-1000.
Oh, shit.
You got to be hardcore and
just
muscled
fucked
up
Don's
and
whole
mechanical,
life,
like
like, right
fucking,
there.
like Arnold's and fucking
That's what I've been
Terminator.
dreaming for my whole life.
You just want to be liquid like the T-1000.
exactly, man.
Hey, did y'all see what was it? I can't remember what Terminator film it was, but being the T-1000 or whatever the newest version of it was that you're the T-1000, but you also just become the internet.
Wait, what?
It was literally like in the villain in the, I can't remember which one this was, but basically you were like liquid metal, but you also could just become information.
Was this Genesis?
Yes, it was
I was
Genesis.
gonna say,
yeah.
I think that's the only one I haven't seen. So
Don't watch it.
No,
God,
I was
for
not
the
planning
love
on
of
it.
fucking Shiva, don't watch it.
No, but like, you know what I mean? Like just having more money, right? Like that's not an appropriate desire. Like if you say like, God damn, you know, I wish I was richer, like people will relate to that. But like to wish harm on your neighbor, you know, because he has more wealth than you is wrong, right? Whereas if you were to...
says the person with that shirt.
Oh, yeah, eat the rich. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't, you know, not like a typical...
Just so everyone knows, Alex is wearing a T-shirt right now that is a crocodile and a business suit, and it just says "Eat the Rich" in
Is
bold
that a
letters.
crocodile or
above
is that a raptor?
Are you doxing me right now? But, huh? It's a...
God damn it! Did
It's
you
a
really?
caiman?
Just, I thought.
it's maybe a caiman.
Caiman, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll just
Fucking
go...
assholes.
we'll
Fine,
go
it's
with,
caiman in a fucking suit.
third. We'll go third way.
Jesus. The synthesis has arrived.
But yeah, you know what I'm saying. You can absolutely desire to be more masculine, right? Because like that's a like fully appropriate desire, and it's like only pertains to you. I don't know. Fuck, you know, our capitalist society sucks, and the things that we are allowed to desire also suck. But I think that it is way easier to frame somebody's like social strife as like you not embodying your essential qualities well enough, you know, like maybe like an Aristotelian, you know, way of like saying you need to become more in tune with what you were meant for, as opposed to like saying like, no, well, you're just like alienated from the, you know, from the products of your labor, and like you basically like have no ability to like value yourself and your own like work, you know.
I will say this actually reminds me of what Max and I talked about with the Stuart Hall episode, is how often economic crises and tensions and anxieties get displaced into these other realms of race or gender. And, you know, not to like collapse everything to say that like, you know, it's all like class reductionism or whatever, but I mean, there might have some elements to that that
heavily
are
class, heavily class.
Well, it's just that like you can't think of them as separate. Like anything that talks
right.
about toxic masculinity without also liking about material class economic aspects is like, again, like fundamentally divorcing itself from like the material components of the criticism, and again like only locates it in the realm of the ideal, which is like inherently a fucking like bourgeois liberal way to think about things.
Yep.
Anything else on this point?
Nah.
Okay. Number 7, the obsession with a plot. The followers must feel besieged. The easiest way to solve the plot is the appeal to xenophobia. So I'm a little on the fence about this one, because I think that there is an element of how the dojo is attacking people precisely to make them feel besieged. And so then they come to the dojo to rectify that feeling. And I had made a comment to y'all that I actually think if we had more time, we could talk about this. I actually think this film is also productively read as a critique of small business owners and the inherent fascism of owning a small business.
Yes, you mentioned this. I'm fascinated. I want to hear more.
Okay, so here's my general take. The dojo, the way that it functions. So let's say we're assuming it's kind of inherently this like fascistic sort of institution, right? The fact that the dojo has this sort of weird underbelly side, which is the motorcycle gang that just basically patrols the town and beats the fucking shit out of unarmed people.
Right.
So I think that whenever you see the scene of Casey finding the videos, and it's obvious that they're not just like using them to blackmail individual people, they're also distributing them and like turning a profit on them. And that's the only way that the studio continues to exist and makes it economically viable. But the thing is, the sensei owns the business. And so one of the things that I think is a horrible, horrible mistake in most discussions about whether certain sections of lower class, like working class whites, are fascist in the US right now is it fundamentally is ahistorical in that it doesn't understand that actually the predominant classes that have supported fascist movements have been fucking small, petty bourgeoisie, fucking small business owners.
I think the middle class and the academics adopted Nazism like much faster.
Yes, they did.
Than
Absolutely.
the rest of the other parts of Germany.
I guess what I'm just trying to say is I think that it's no small wonder that Sensei is a fascist also because he's a small business owner, and that the whole inherent misogynist, like materialist sort of practice, it's sort of like that's the materialist base of the fascistic institution, is the fact that it's a small business that has to like generate profit precisely by brutalizing people to then generate the desire for the product and the service they're selling in the first place. Yeah. So that's my take. So I think that if you read this film as a critique of toxic masculinity without also critiquing the fact that toxic masculinity is also supported by fascist institutions and by small business owners, I think you fundamentally miss the point.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's fucking ice cold motherfucking take right there.